Hello and welcome to the Best and Worst Pictures podcast. I'm your host Jake, and with me as always is my good co-host Ian.
That's me.
And joining us as per usual is my other, also a co-host, Mud. How you doing?
That's getting worse.
What is this show, you might ask? Well, before I get into that, we got to introduce our special guest, Joaquin of Potato Cast fame and glory. How you doing?
This isn't the right podcast.
Totally wrong podcast.
He stumbled onto the set of it. He's like, time to do potato cast. Who the fuck are these people?
Uh-huh.
We tricked him. We said we'd record Potato Cast today.
Exactly.
Oh.
So, well, Joaquin might be wondering what the show is about. Well, you see, every week the three of us, and now four of us idiots, sit down and review a Best Picture winner over the past 100 years or so, and determine if it's one of the best or worst pictures as compared to the others.
Mutiny on the Bounty? Sounds like it's gonna be the best.
Well, that's what we're discussing this week. It is I believe the 10th Best Picture? 8th Best Picture? Close.
It's close to 10.
8 is pretty close to 10. And to start us off, Mud has collected some fun facts about the film, which none of us have heard ahead of time. So, Mud, take it away.
Thank you, Jake. And Ian, I just want to thank you as well for mentioning that you think Mutiny on the Bounty is going to be the best film of 1935, because it might not be, given what I'm going to tell you.
Okay.
So, to start us off, I'll go through the usual. It was released by MGM Studios, and it premiered in theaters on November 8th, 1935. It was directed by Frank Lloyd, who is
again.
It is a returning face to this show, as he was also the director of Cavalcade, which won about 2 or 3 back, I think.
And he's not the Frank from the last one.
He's not Frank Capra, who they famously had a little snafu when accepting the Best Director award for Cavalcade.
Also, hot take, he's not talented. But go on.
Yeah, Cavalcade's kind of bad. So yeah, I also discovered while researching this film that Lloyd's considered one of the founders of the Academy of Motion Pictures and Sciences.
Cool.
Yeah. So the film stars Clark Gable.
Back again.
He is. He's not the lead though.
Returning from last week.
And we'll see him again with Gone with the Wind. And I just want to mention, for my fun fact for him, I just wrote still Clark Gable. Because he's the king of Hollywood.
That is the most fun fact of all facts.
That's true.
The next actor in this, the actual main character, is Charles Lawton.
Yep.
Who is also known for Ruggles of Redcap, which was also nominated for Best Picture this year.
Oh, cool.
And Spartacus from 1960, that Stanley Kubrick film that's not a Kubrick film with Kirk Douglas.
Wow. Okay. Do we have to watch that one or no?
No.
Damn.
Yeah, I know. It's pretty good.
Yeah.
And as for a fun fact, he won the Academy Award for Best Actor in a Leading Role in 1933 for The Private Life of Henry VIII.
Okay.
Lastly, we have Franchot Tone. He isn't known for a whole lot else, but funnily enough, he's in an episode of The Twilight Zone.
Oh, nice.
It's called The Silence.
Ooh, that is a banger one.
Yeah, right. I was like, I'm pretty sure I've seen that one. Yeah, he's in that. And he was also married to Joanne Crawford, who was in Grand Hotel.
Okay, cool.
Yep.
Everything ties together back then.
Yeah. As for critical reviews, 93% critics score Rotten Tomatoes.
That's, yeah.
84% audience score Rotten Tomatoes.
Still high.
7.7 out of 10 IMDb.
One of the highest we've had.
One of the all-around highest we've ever... I think only All Quiet's higher. So let's get into some fun facts. This film's based on real-life events, though it was adapted from a book.
Okay.
This is also not the only version. It was remade in 1962 with
Yep.
Louis Milestone, another returning guy.
You're right.
All Quiet on the Western Front's director.
Yep.
And it starred Marlon Brando.
Of Apocalypse Now fame.
Yep.
Well, of Hollywood fame.
Yeah. But the remake isn't the only attempt at continuing this franchise. In 1940, Frank Lloyd was also interested in making a sequel to this film with Universal, but it never reached the light of day. There's also a 1984 British production called The Bounty with Mel Gibson and Anthony Hopkins.
One of that sounds good.
Yeah, I know.
It's Anthony Hopkins.
Also, let's get a little more into the actual ceremony of the Academy Awards. All 3 men that I mentioned at the top nominated for Best Actor. Not Best Support, Best Actor.
For this movie?
Mm-hmm.
What the fuck?
And all 3 of them lost. Oof. To Victor McLaglen for The Informer. Frank Lloyd was nominated for Best Director, and he lost to John Ford
For The Informer?
for The Informer.
Oh.
It was also nominated for Best Adapted Screenplay, and it lost to The Informer.
Wait, hold on. How do you win Best Picture and lose Best Adapted to another movie?
I'm getting to that. It's the 3rd film in history, along with Broadway Melody and Grand Hotel, to only win Best Picture.
How do you lose?
Remember when I said at the top that it might not actually be the best film of 1935?
Yeah.
Oh, it was also nominated for Best Original Score. It lost to The Informer.
Okay. How do you already? How do you lose Best Adapted Screenplay to a movie and then beat that movie for Best Picture
I don't get it. It's weird because I know different sections of different people vote for different things, but everyone votes for Best Picture. I really don't understand how like a movie like I'm trying to think of the prime example of the one. There was one or two maybe that got nominated for like 7 or 8 Oscars, lost every single one except Best Picture, and it won.
Yeah.
It was one of those. And it's like, why
that's
are you
one of
calling it the
these.
Best Picture of the year if it didn't win fucking anything else?
Yeah, I know what you mean. It was also nominated for Best Editing. It lost to Midsummer Night's Dream.
Oh, Jesus
Okay.
Christ.
I thought you
No,
were going to say The Informer
But,
again.
it lost almost every category to
Yeah.
The Informer, which, fun fact, was nominated for Best Picture,
Yep.
along with Mutiny and Midsummer Night's Dream. The other nominees that it beat out were Alice Adams, Captain Blood, David Copperfield, The Lives of a Bengal Lancer, Les Miserables, Naughty Marietti, Ruggles of the Red Cap, as I mentioned.
Yep.
Or, sorry, Ruggles of Red Cap.
Yep.
Top Hat, and this one really threw me for a loop. Broadway Melody, 1936.
Oh my God.
One of the sequels.
That's
Yep.
right.
it
That's so
came
funny.
back.
Fun
That's so
fact,
funny.
out of all of those movies, I've seen one.
What one?
I've seen A Midsummer Night's Dream.
Huh.
Front before class.
Well,
How
that
is
one
it?
might be one of the better pictures of 1935.
It's fine.
I kind of want to watch The Informer as well,
Yeah.
so that
Same.
we can figure out which one is
Same.
the better
I'm
one.
not understanding. Maybe just Clark Gable's in this. Everyone likes Clark Gable.
I mean, we like Clark Gable.
Oh, he lost Best Actor though.
All 3 of them lost
3 of
Best
them lost.
Actor.
Damn.
Yeah. They had a 3 shot at
That's
Best
so
Actor, and they all
funny.
lost. So yeah, The Informer beat them out in almost every category except the
That's
one that
wild.
mattered the
Yeah.
most to get it on the show.
Yeah.
And lastly, of course, our Mary Pickford fact.
Yeah.
She's Canadian.
Yay, Canada.
That
All
one
right.
really threw me for a loop.
All right, guys, we're
I
gonna get
love
into it.
Mary Pickford facts.
With-
That's my
Yeah, me
favorite part of
too.
the show.
With all that out of the way, and right before I go into this movie to watch it with you guys, are you guys excited for it?
Dude.
I want to get Joaquin's take.
I have no idea what's going on.
Woo!
I love pirate stuff. I love boat stuff. I love Clark Gable. I'm really excited. This is one of the ones that I know more about, and I'm really excited to fully experience.
I'm excited because, to just elaborate, there are movies that won Best Picture that you know about, and there are movies that won Best Picture that you don't know about. This is one that I know about.
Yep. Especially when it comes to the older ones. If you don't know about it, it's probably for a reason.
Yeah, I was about to say the ones that we've seen in the show. I think there's a reason that we know the names of Mutiny and the Bounty, but we don't know about Cavalcade.
Cimarron.
Cimarron, it gets lost to time for a
Broadway
reason.
Melody.
It
Yep.
gets lost to time for a
They
reason.
get lost of time for reasons.
for reasons.
And
So.
especially for Cimarron and Cavalcade, there are reasons. Cavalcade sucks. Cimarron's painfully racist.
So let's get into Mutiny and the Bounty right away.
Hell yes.
All right. And we just finished watching Mutiny on the Bounty.
Yeah, we did.
So I got to ask you guys, in your opinion, what is the opposite of a historically accurate film?
A historically inaccurate film.
Because holy shit. So I was vaguely aware of the fact that Mutiny on the Bounty is not very historically accurate.
Yep.
But as we started watching this film and we got on it, and we were like, this can't be how it was. And I was expecting maybe something like, I'm going to compare it to last year's Trial of the Chicago 7, where you're like, wow, this is a zoo. And then you read and they're like, yeah, they actually cut a lot of the weird shit that happened. And you're like, oh, the court was like an actual just madhouse from start to finish.
Yes, it was.
You know? And they toned it down for more realism. So like we're watching this film and Captain Bligh is just acting like cartoonishly evil.
So you want to get into it immediately?
Yeah, I'm getting into it immediately. And we looked it up, and it's like, actually, Bligh was pretty reasonable up until the last leg of the journey. And I was like, oh, cool. So they just dragged this guy through the mud.
I think it's for entertainment value, obviously.
Yeah.
I don't mind it.
I would.
I minded a
I'd be
lot.
pretty mad if I was a guy who was reasonable until towards the end of my ship journey, got mutinied, and then died, and then 100 years later got a movie made where I'm very evil in it. You know
yeah,
what I mean?
like, Bligh is also, like, he's portrayed as, like, almost incompetent, in my opinion.
No, he's very competent at breaking them in spirits.
Yeah.
Like, he's...
Aside from the journey, the 45-day journey at sea on the raft, he doesn't present himself as very, like, competent or reasonable or nice, and he outright lies to
He's
several
brutal,
people.
yeah.
Like, he's just, like, he's cartoonishly evil.
I wasn't terribly aware of the real event, so that really didn't like get me at all any point. But like, also another point I want to bring up: not being aware of the real event. they low-key to high-key just kind of spoiled the movie at the start with the little prologue there.
Yeah.
They just
Yeah.
said everything that will happen in the film, and it's like, I get that it's based on a real event, and therefore it's not really spoiling quasi-recent history.
Yep.
But personally, I don't know anything about it. So I would have preferred to experience the story without that pretext to see what would happen. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't
Yeah.
want them to be like, and then everyone's going to win, and you're all going to go away, hippity, and then it starts, and it's like, okay, you kind of just took that punch away from me, but
Yep.
whatever.
To rewind a bit, since I kind of jumped the gun, let's crawl through this shit.
All right, yeah. I'll get into it right now. I started out kind of slow.
Oh, yeah,
right.
it's very slow.
It starts out kind of slow. But once the boat gets on the water and the journey begins, I feel like the tensions really do start to rise.
Oh,
and
yes.
The way
Yes.
that they built up to the mutiny itself is, I want to say, like at the halfway point of the movie.
About.
But everything prior to that, like the first hour ish, that was such a good way to tension build up to that point. Like every single scene where, not even the mutiny itself, but like any of the prior outbursts and arguments that lead up to the main event, that was just like dripping with drama. And let me
Yes.
just freaking say, because we're all going to say it, but Clark Gable, whenever that was on screen, I completely bought the role, by the way, of like a seafaring kind of
Yep.
swashbuckler kind of
Yeah,
guy.
nothing like an American Englishman.
Exactly.
He did not do an
Oh,
accent.
yeah.
Right,
Yeah, that's
no,
what-
no, the accents are...
Everybody's all over the place.
Just to
with
bring it
their
up real
accents.
quick, last week we talked about how I was afraid that Clark Gable was like, maybe he didn't have a lot of range. He has range. He has no... I don't know if he didn't care to change his accent or
They might
he
not have told him to.
may not have
That's
told him
true.
to, but it kind of took me out of it. I'm like, wait, aren't these guys supposed to be English?
Nobody at the time, in or out of the movie, cared. So
I care now.
we care now 100 years later.
Clark Gable should have known that I
He
would care.
should have known that you would care. He's so selfish.
Yeah,
But,
that being said, should have won Best Actor.
Right.
I'll
but
say
like,
it.
you
Like,
see
We
him,
haven't
like,
seen The Informer.
I'll watch it, but there's no way you're beating that.
whatever he walks out like in the costume with like the way he talks to people, it feels really well cast
Yep.
on their part that they put Clark Gable in that specific role. I think
Yeah.
that's probably the best role he could have been in that movie to play to his strengths.
Yeah.
In a sense, as like that kind of man.
Phenomenal.
Speaking of costumes, though, I thought the costumes in this film looked kind of cheap. Like, they looked like they were costumes. Do you know what I mean?
Kind.
They
well, I
look-
mean,
Not really.
No, I
They're
don't
so
know.
fresh and pressed and polished a lot of the
They were
time.
supposed to be the King's Royal Navy.
But like, I mean, like even further on into the journey, it just looked. They looked too clean for me. They looked like the stitching was just done.
I won't say that about the military outfits, but not the prisoner outfits. The other crewmates definitely. Those look
their
cheap.
clothes seemed pretty like unreasonably clean for like conscription soldiers.
Yeah.
And there's a scene where a soldier in just a white top gets drenched with water, and it does not soak the shirt.
No, there's a couple scenes where they're in water, and then the next scene they're a little more dry.
No, it wasn't that he was dry. It's that like the shirt was wet, but it wasn't absorbing. Like it was wet on top of the shirt. Like the shirt wasn't made of a material that absorbed water. It was very strange because he had puffy wrists,
Yep.
and like
okay.
they did not droop from being soaked. The water just kind of hit him, and I was like,
Yeah.
There are a lot
that's
of
really weird.
there are a lot of inconsistent things going from scene to scene, though.
Oh
yeah, especially with some of the cuts and stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah,
the
I
way
can
it's framed a lot of the time, it doesn't match up, and that's kind of very inconsistent and very noticeable.
Yep.
There are some painful cuts.
Yes.
because like shot to shot, the eye usually lingers center frame.
Yep.
And you'll see, like, in one shot, this guy's got his arms down. Next shot, his arms are up.
Yes.
And it's painfully noticeable
Yep.
because his arms are in the middle of the shot. And it's like, oh, wait. He definitely wasn't standing like that
No, it wasn't.
Yep.
10 seconds ago.
Yeah.
Not even 10 seconds ago. Sometimes
Like,
it was
just
as bad
1
as
second. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a scene right after they were arguing when he grabbed the guy. And
Yeah, that's exactly.
it punched in immediately. And
They
he was-
punched in.
Yep.
His arms are center frame grabbing
Yep.
the guy. And, like,
Right.
there was
it doesn't
no shot of
show.
him.
Yeah, it doesn't show him grabbing the guy. It just shows his arms on him.
Yeah. It's
Yep.
like he teleported.
Right.
Yep.
Exactly.
It looked very, very strange. I'm not a huge fan of most of the transitions in this movie, to be quite honest. They're very basic, bland. boring.
Yeah. Very.
However,
a lot of
I
crossfades.
really, really like the Indiana Jones map transition.
I had a lot of questions after that map came up because there's a couple moments where I'm like, wait, I feel like we skipped a scene. Like there's a scene where at the Cape Horn they do a zigzag. It's like they cross the map back and forth in a short area really, really quickly and then shoot off towards Cape of Good Hope. And I'm like, wait, whoa. Why'd you do that?
Yeah.
Might have been winds fucking them up too, though.
No, they landed. I would have loved to see that sequence where they actually went
They
there.
landed in South Africa
Okay.
near the Cape of Good Hope, and the movie just skips over it. I'm like, whoa,
Skips
hold
over.
on a second, because we're about to get to Tahiti.
Yeah,
This
that's
would
the
be an
thing.
amazing. This would be an amazing French plantation scene where the crew, you know,
exactly. From
finds a
Apocalypse Now.
weird safe haven as
But
they're
that's
going up
Tahiti.
river.
Yeah,
I know.
Tahiti's the safe haven. Yeah.
I get it. It probably would have been derivative.
Would have bogged down the story a little bit.
Yeah.
Because the movie does not care about facts; it cares about what tells the best story.
And this movie tells a great story, in my opinion.
Yes, it does. And
I think I want to go right into this because I have a lot of positive feelings. I really like this movie.
I want to be clear. I did too. I've just got a couple things that really.
As the
irk
movie
me.
starts,
I think it's good.
I think the on land stuff is, whatever. They weren't on land very long, but every single scene builds tension towards the mutiny. You can see every crewmate on the ship's like, I really don't fucking like this guy.
Yeah.
And some of them go along with it because they're power hungry, just like the captain is. You can see when he sends out those 2 boats to look for wind, he's like, oh, get him working harder. One of the guys on the boat, the midshipmen, the captains of those little boats, is whipping and hitting, and the other one's missing on purpose.
Mm-hmm.
He's reluctant to punish them that way because he doesn't think it's the right way. And I think that's awesome. It sets up the inklings for the mutiny. Every single one of these scenes sets up little inklings, little microaggressions of the crew towards the captain. They call him names behind his back. They said they want to beat him up, kill him, choke him, poison him, feed him his own poison.
Mm-hmm.
Phenomenally done. Every scene with Clark Gable, you can see it in his fucking face. He's torn when the men are getting flogged. He's like, he's pissed.
Yes.
You can see it going over and over. He finally snaps, and they have that really big argument right before they reach the island.
Tahiti. Yeah.
Yes, right before they have this hard argument. And it's so well acted. Both of them are phenomenal.
The confliction
is.
of Clark Gable's character, I think, is probably the centerpiece for me.
Yes.
I don't know
Yeah.
if it's supposed to be. Like, I know Blythe is quasi-main character. His friend is quasi-main character. But
Byam,
fucking
yeah.
Clark Gable, though.
I think
like,
more the relationship between them is supposed to be.
Right. But,
Yeah.
like, I love how, like, when they uprise against Blythe and all of the crew wants to, like, flog him, obviously.
Yes.
Gable is the one who tells them there'll be
No.
no more flogging aboard this ship.
And my favorite thing is you see once that flogging kills that older dude that's watching it.
Yep.
Clark Gable's crying.
Right.
Literal tears. He's like, you killed him.
Like, that
this
really
is your
shows-
fault. I told you no.
Right. That shows his moral compass. Like, in
Yes.
contrast to literally everyone else aboard that ship.
Yep.
He even stops that guy from shooting him
Yep.
right before he's going to shoot the captain on the boat. He's like, fuck you, or whatever. And he just pulls the gun up and is like,
Awesome.
no. Yes, we mutinized the ship. Yes, I endorse this. Yes, I'm part of this. But no, we're not going to stoop.
We're not stupid. Yes,
We're
thank you.
not stooping to Blythe's level.
It's
That's
pretty
so
good.
freaking cool.
But-
The character, Clark Gable's interaction with Blythe, Clark Gable's interaction with Byam, probably the reason why it won. I'm not even gonna lie. Like the character work in this movie,
The character work, some of the effects, the work on the boat, large
Yeah.
for the most part. Is
95%
largely
of the
smooth.
boat scenes look amazing.
They're
I couldn't tell if
amazing.
they were miniatures.
They aren't. That's the crazy
Yep.
part. The only ones that didn't look good was Bly on the life raft.
The smaller
Right.
ships don't look
The
as good.
smaller
Yep.
ships, because the waves are
Right.
just going up and down. You're like, this ship would capsize if it's going up and down like that with the amount of weight. But to talk about the actual mutiny itself, just with the way that Bly is presented, as I've mentioned before, like half the crew goes with them, and I'm like, why is anyone going with this man?
Yeah.
I feel like they're playing up the idea that Bly is just the evil, literally like devil mixed with Hitler guy to kill everyone on the crew. They're playing that up so that we as an audience grow to hate him, which I guess worked, but it also felt kind of cheap because, as we all know, the flogging and the torture was mostly fabricated.
Right.
Yeah.
So
I don't know.
And it cheapens the effect when half the crew decides to go with them. And then when they make their way back to Tahiti, where Bly wasn't, fun fact, the ship that came to grab the mutineers, Bly was not on. But the non-mutineers hop on the ship and they're like reporting for duty. And he's like, nope, you took part in the mutiny. And they're like, but we didn't. And he's like, I don't want to hear it. You're lying. And locks them in the brig.
Yep.
And it's just shit like that where I'm like, there's no moral gray area in this mutiny, which
Yeah.
I think the film is lacking because the real mutiny had that moral gray area that we've read about, you know? And I think that would have made it a stronger film if you present it as like, who really is right here, Bly or Christian?
Right.
You know, but the film takes a hard stance.
The film with their inaccuracies, we looked it up, and they had slaves on the mutiny ship.
Oh yeah, when they returned to Tahiti, they took some of the natives hostage and then left.
They took that out to just make Gable look like a good guy, when in actuality, it would have probably benefited the film more to have that gray area to show that really no one was right here.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because a lot of life, especially back then, was probably gray area.
One of the things that I do want to point out, though, I would have been happy if they did do it, but I'm also very happy that they didn't, because I don't want dehumanization of other cultures.
Mm-hmm.
And I know it's more historically accurate, but in the same breath, I feel like they might have done it in a way that would have been just barrelingly offensive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Although I will give this film this: the guy playing the native of the Tahiti people, actually from Tahiti.
Yes. No, I wrote
Blew
that
my
up.
mind.
Yeah, that's great.
People of color in this movie are actually people of color.
That's
and
great.
Not just
Not
white
all
people.
from Tahiti. The main three are
Mexico, Hawaii, Tahiti.
yeah, but the main one's from Tahiti. I was like,
Yes.
holy shit.
Film in this time period that might have been worse would have had just a white guy passing, or a very, very stereotypical black person, like
Yes.
in Cimarron.
Yeah.
Yeah, oh yeah. Oh my
I
God.
am very happy that the other culture was portrayed as smart, but in their own way, helpful, and not dehumanized or talked down to.
And it's good because that is, when we were reading, that is largely how their trip to Tahiti went. It went fine. They didn't fight anyone, you know. They had a good time.
They went buddy
were,
buddy.
They were buddy, you know.
I also do want to kind of mention that, like, the on another aspect of this very same topic, if this story, because it's been rebooted like 5 or 6 times,
Mhm.
if this story were made like in 2021, then they would pay much closer attention to historical details, lest they get people backlashing the hell out of it today. Because back then, people didn't really give a shit, but today it kind of matters.
I agree with that, and I think that's a product of its time. Of they were making something to entertain.
Yeah.
And I'm guessing, you know, the extensive Wikipedia articles that I was reading while watching this film probably weren't available to people in 1935. I'm suspecting.
I know historical accuracy is a big thing for you guys, but I don't care. I actually really
No,
think
I'm kind of with you on this one.
in the context, this movie's fucking entertaining.
This movie is damn entertaining.
If this movie was made today to be as historically accurate as possible, I don't think I'd like it as much.
Yeah.
Just because I like the interactions on screen. I kind of like the cartoony evil captain.
I
You know
just
what?
can't get behind it.
I don't even think he's cartoonishly evil.
I think
I
he-
think that, hear me
At
out.
some points he is.
At some points he is, but in an overall sense, I feel like he's self-absorbed.
Yes.
And in that self-absorbedness, and in a position of high power like a captain of a Royal Navy ship, he probably thinks he's better than everybody else.
Yes.
And I think that's why when the non-mutineers come back, he goes, "No, you didn't come with me. Like, you would have came with me." Things like that I can see past. The flogging and the breaking down of the men so they don't hold themselves on a higher pedestal, I get that. Like, ship captains did do that. So I think that's believable. Believable for the actual historical accuracies, yes. But for time period accuracies as a whole, actually, yes. Like, people were brutal. Pirate ships and Navy ships were not nice places.
Mhm.
This is why I don't like a lot of newer pirate media. It's more fun, and I don't want fun.
You don't want your. What do you want from your pirate film?
Like, gritty. Like a gritty,
It can be fun and
harsh
gritty.
time. This movie has that. It's not like, oh, I'm the captain. Everybody hi ho, sing fucking songs and have a good time and drink. They died of diseases and like did not enjoy themselves most of the
Right.
time. They scrambled to survive, and
I hear what you're
I like
saying,
this.
but I want to point something out, which is on the way to Tahiti, they only lost 2 people.
yes,
So I think it would have been a more compelling film if it was about Bly and Christian, who start off as friends, or at least, you know, buddy,
They are
and watching their relationship deteriorate to the point where Christian mutinies.
we did see that.
That would be.
I think we did see that.
No, I don't think we saw that
their
at all
relationship
because Bly was a
deteriorated-
fucking dick the entire time.
I think their relationship did deteriorate very quickly. But I think the more important thing is how Byam and Christian both saw him and their relationship deteriorated.
Mm-hmm.
I agree that it's a good substitution. I disagree with your idea that if this film was more historically accurate and made today, it would be worse.
Oh, it definitely would be.
It wouldn't be
100%.
at all.
I'm with Ian on this one.
Yeah.
They would try way too hard to make it way too accurate, and that's not
No,
to say
because
that's
there would be a better moral gray between Bly and Christian.
Yes, but I think the way they framed
They
it in
would
this
pull
movie.
even more punches.
Yes.
I can't agree with
The
that
way
at
they
all.
framed it in this movie made it at least interesting. I don't think having a historically accurate version would have made it more interesting.
It would at least be on par, but like it could at least be on par, but I feel like there wouldn't be as much
Yeah.
like as much of that character interaction, because all three of these characters, all three of our mains are so involved, so well acted, so well ingrained with each other, and every single thing that they interact, every little detail in this movie in the conversation is perfect.
See,
Like-
this is where like I'm trying to see where I chime in because I don't know if I side more with Ian or Mud in this debate. I'm of two minds because for one, you know, you got to make sure that you get your details right. It's only when you get your details right that you can distort them at your leisure, as I think Mark Twain once said. That's how fiction is supposed to work. You stick within the rules you establish, and if you're basing this on a real event, you have to stick within those rules, which is the real event. So I really don't think you should break too much real life. That being said, if you're telling a movie and you're doing it in that form, the number one job is to make the best movie possible.
Yes.
Yes.
And
I think they did.
I'm
that.
kind of torn because I feel like some of the changes that were made did improve the story of the movie. If they did go with that like realistic factor, aside from the mutiny itself, which is pretty interesting, I would argue that not a whole lot of interesting events really occurred before or after.
I think we would have what I think would have happened is if this film in particular was more historically accurate, we would have missed that Clark Gable argument with Blythe. That really big argument that just sets the movie on fire for me. That scene in particular, like the scenes where he's disagreeing with him, the scenes where they're butting heads. I won't sign this because it's not real. You haven't paid these men yet. Like scenes like that.
Or like when Clark Gable is like giving him advice on just what to do, like, you know, just his 2 cents, and then he retorts with like, "Are you presuming to give me orders?" Like very defensive.
Those things. I think it misses out on those things if he's not as harsh and brutal as he is. I know it's not what the guy really was, but that stuff makes the movie for me, man. Like that is just beautifully done. What they added in this movie is very well written.
I don't disagree. I don't disagree that this is a good film and that the interactions between Bly and Christian are great.
Yeah.
It just irks me that like it couldn't
You're
have
a big
been
history
further
guy.
from the truth.
I completely understand.
Yeah.
You are a very big history
And
guy.
I don't think that a film that's about these two guys captaining a ship where their relationship slowly deteriorates is somehow inferior. I don't see how that can be seen as a bad thing.
No, there is a way to make it good. I just feel like what we have here is so strong.
Yes.
With the character interactions that I'm having a harder time seeing if it wasn't like that. You know what I mean?
Fair enough. I mean, your only exposure to Mutiny has been this film, so
Yes.
maybe if you watch...
Maybe if you
There's
lived through
a-
the actual
Yeah,
mutiny.
maybe you
Yeah.
got on the ship. I was gonna
Yeah.
say if you watched the Marlon Brando version from like 30 years later, but no, if you lived
No,
on the
I'm-
Bounty and got mutinied,
I'm wondering if any of those are more accurate.
yeah, you know
That's
what?
a good question.
I would be weird if they were less accurate. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
In their version, Bly just straight up kills Christian.
Yeah, that would be kind of weird if they fucking took that turn. But like, no, I would assume that like, especially because like as time goes on, movies try and be more accurate because people care slightly more than they previously did.
Right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Even though it was the 60s, so it wasn't
I
like super important.
Do want to transition from the discussion of the story to a technical aspect.
Okay. Yes,
We've touched on it for the projection of stuff. There are some beautiful shots in this film that I don't think we've talked about enough. There's one shot of very early on, Christian and I think the drunk doctor in his room, and it starts with the room at an angle in one direction where like the bed is high, you know, and slanted down to the left. And as they're talking, because the ship is tilting, it very slowly begins to rotate until it's slanting down to the right and the bed is down. And I just, like, they didn't need to do that.
But there's a lot of that in this movie.
I
too.
know, that's what I'm saying. Is like, it's so...
It's very convincing, especially for 1935.
Yeah.
1935,
it's
yeah.
very
It
convincing.
makes you
They're-
feel like you're on a ship. Although
Yeah.
sometimes they did go a little crazy where like the
Yeah.
the light, the scene where all the men are seasick because the light's just flipping the fuck out.
Yeah.
And everything else in the room is stationary.
Well, they're the ones moving it, but yeah, I can see it wouldn't be as
Yeah,
rapid.
well, the hammocks are moving too.
Yep.
But like everything on the desk is fine. There's coats that are hung up that
Yep.
are hanging straight down and they're
Yeah.
not like
Yeah, they're
tilting.
not swaying at all.
Yeah,
No, yep.
Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad, but when it's when it's good, it's great.
Oh, absolutely, especially for 35. It's
I
so
would say
impressive.
actually the fact that a lot of this is so competent and or great speaks so much to the like a wow factor of it being from 1935 because you see movies from the 40s and 50s
And
that
even
have-
60s.
60s
Yeah.
that have way fucking worse
Yep.
boat effects, you know?
Hell, I've seen more recent movies that have worse boat effects, like
Yeah.
2000s.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly. I mean, there's some excellent detail, excellent makeup, excellent ship sequences.
I agree. Oh, the makeup. Oh my god, the scene where all those dudes are
Yep.
starving and
Yep.
shit. they all look so fucking dead.
Yes.
They do. They look like
absolutely.
they got starving people to put you on
It
screen
is
there.
actively
Oh,
impressive.
the captain's chafed lips from being
Dude,
at
the
sea.
shape,
Just
look, the salty seawater shit.
oh, it's
Amazing.
I want to point out too
Yep.
that this is a film from almost 100 years ago being downloaded and played on a 4K television, so the quality is not fantastic. And you
You
can
know what?
tell,
The quality of this movie is good.
you can
Yeah.
tell based on just the details, at least with this cut anyway, that those little like details of the chap lipped are like he's
Yeah.
shivering, it's kind of stuttering a little bit. Like, oh my god, it's
It's
so
exactly what it
convincing.
would be. At the very beginning, before they set off, there's that man they're gonna flog, and
Yep.
he's dead. And it's a wide shot, and it's kind of far away, but you can still see the
The
cuts
flag
on his
marks,
back
yep.
from his previous wounds.
Yeah.
Even something simple like that guy who had bloody knees from being on his knees
Yeah,
scrubbing the
you can
deck all
see it.
day.
Mm-hmm.
It's not over the top. They just look like they've
Yep.
been rubbed raw.
Yeah.
You know, it's like that's some really good detail. The makeup in this film is amazing. There's one point
There
where a
is.
guy gets his hand stabbed through a wall.
Oh, it
and
looks so good.
It looks so good, which brings me.
I don't know about that. That one kind of looked a little fake to
All
me.
right. Well, I was using it as a transition, Joaquin. Thank you for ruining it.
Oh, well, you're welcome.
Because that's a very violent act, and it's amazing that something like the Hays Code allowed for it.
Yeah, a lot of this movie. There was a scene where a dude was dropped from the ropes,
Mhm.
and he fell like 40 feet and fucking died.
Yeah.
And they showed it. Like,
Yeah.
this is a violent film, and you know what? It's portraying the person that is doing the violent criminal act as the good guy. So that's also against the code.
Yeah.
I do not think this movie counts as a a post-code movie.
Well, I
Like,
wanted to talk about that.
No, that's
the
what-
code was implemented sometime in the late 20s or 30s, but it wasn't
Mm-hmm.
strictly enforced until 1934.
Okay.
The previous film we watched, It Happened One Night, was like one of the last films to get out before that. It
Yeah.
started about mid 1934. You
Yep.
know,
Yep.
was the real enforcement of it, and it had some harsh rules.
Yeah.
You know,
Yep.
like a lot of rules about what to do and what not to do. Profanity, nudity, sexuality, sexual hygiene, stuff
Even
like
down to
that.
things like smoking, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Arson, use of firearms, theft, robbery, brutality, sometimes gruesome, sedation, like stuff. Just about everything, you know?
Yeah.
Everything was so.
I feel like this movie didn't follow that at all.
No, there's a shot of several naked people several times. We saw some
Yeah.
girls naked coming out of the water.
Yeah.
Like it was from behind, but they were still nude.
Gotta give it a 10 out of 10. Go on.
Yeah, honestly, like there was a lot of violence in. I believe in the Hays Code, you're not allowed to portray any criminal act or anything as like sympathetic.
Yeah, I don't think
And
so.
Christian is a criminal.
At the very end, Byam argues that like what Christian did was morally correct, even
Yep.
if it wasn't legally allowed.
And you know what? Even though Byam and Christian had that falling out, he's right. Like it was the morally correct thing to do with how the captain was treating the people.
Yeah.
And we're like kind of lucky being born like kind of when we did, because like we grew up in a time where it's universally accepted that like no, movies shouldn't have to follow this one weird guideline. You
Yeah.
know, movies
Yeah.
can be whatever they want to be as long as the audience knows what
Yeah.
they're getting with like a rating on it or whatever.
Mhm.
You know. But no, I want to build off those points because I really did enjoy a lot of the action. I enjoyed like the shock factor, like
Yeah.
the hand through the wall, and a lot of the scenes are really powerful with an unfitting soundtrack behind it on occasion.
Oh my
I want
God.
to talk about that. There's like sequences where like, what was it? Clark Gable's doing something like
Oh, ready?
heroic.
Right after they had that really, really big, awesome, tense argument, like fucking happy.
It becomes like Treasure Planet. Like just ethereal, like uplifting, like we're gonna go find the gold. Like it does not fit. I get it's supposed to be like, oh, thank God, like the tension is over now that they've found land. But it comes off as just like almost childlike, the
Yeah.
music. It's like this is way too upbeat for what just happened.
And speaking about the music, and one of the things that kind of took me out of it, and I don't know if this is because it was 1935, but you couldn't have the music track and the audio track of them talking at the same time.
Yeah.
So a lot of times the music would just either
Overpower. Yep.
it would either overpower or would just end immediately, and then they would start talking, and then the music would start again. That kind of took me out of it.
I do want to talk about one thing that didn't sell me quite at first, but with time it got better.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't really sold on Christian Fletcher and the Island Girl. I felt like it was like, ooh, an exotic mayonnaise man, and then he like really wanted to go out, and he was like, ooh, sexy lady. It grew on me more as time went on, and they spent more time on the island. I believed it more.
Yeah.
But I would have liked a couple more scenes there.
I get that. I totally actually do agree with you. I would want more of those scenes, but like I totally buy that they fell in love in this specific movie because usually like in those times anyway, someone from a different culture who's that handsome like showing up.
It is
in this,
shocking.
This shock.
I would fall in love with Clark Gable
If
immediately.
you walk through that door right now, I'd be like, take me.
take me. Yeah,
Oh,
exactly.
Clark, five some, please.
If,
Yeah.
if it wasn't someone who was like on the level of Clark Gable in terms of handsome, I don't know if that would buy it.
No,
but
it's
I
fair,
do.
it's fair.
I do. I just do. I simply do.
Also, they spent a couple months on that
Yeah,
island
oh,
off screen.
but it went by a little progressively
Yeah.
quickly, so I wanted a little bit more slow. But as time went on, as they returned, I was like, okay, I can buy this.
Yeah.
Like, he went back for her, I believe.
Yeah,
like,
you said you wanted more scenes of it. I would argue this movie doesn't really manage its time correctly at a lot of
at
places.
some points you're right.
You're right.
You can cut that beginning part out.
Yeah.
You can shave it down.
You can definitely shave like the first maybe 20 minutes of the movie,
Into 10
restructure
minutes.
it.
I
Yeah.
agree
Yeah.
because I was the one who was saying like it's slow until they get on the boat and then it gets going.
Yeah.
It's like
As soon as they're on the boat, it's
A
fun
banger
right
the
ahead.
whole time.
Full steam
It-
ahead.
Yeah, absolutely.
Also, like on time management, like you were saying, no, I feel like this movie was decent with time management, but it's covering like 2 or 3 years, and it's kind of skipping all over. Like when they
Right.
skipped the bottom of Africa when they definitely landed
But
on
they,
that map.
they make it very clear that they stopped and it's like, hold on, time out. Whoa,
Yeah,
whoa, whoa.
wait, I want to see that.
Let's see that. That's a great
What,
idea.
what happened?
Can I point something out real quick?
What's up?
We've talked a lot about Bly and Christian. Byam slaps.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
he does.
actually was about to transition to that. After the mutiny, I would argue the main character of this film changes from Christian to Byam.
I would say it's Byam through him and Christian, and then it's Byam through him on the island.
Yeah.
And I think Byam is awesome, especially in that "We Can Never Be Friends Again" scene.
Oh, that's
Mhm.
so good.
That's so good.
That is so powerful. You can see it on Christian's face. He's like, "Oh, I fucked up," but like it was the right thing. But he was so conflicted.
love the
Like,
subtle-
he's
Byam was
realizing
so conflicted.
he's
And-
realizing he can't have both.
Yes, and when they reconnect again on the island, I believe that fully because he's like, "All right, you know what? These guys, seeing them like this and seeing them how they were on the ship, like." Maybe you made the right call.
Yeah.
Like you can see Byam slowly start to turn as the time progresses.
Yeah.
And even at the end, that end monologue when he's in court, we've already mentioned when he's like, what he did was morally right, even though it wasn't legally right.
Mm-hmm.
That I understand why all three of these guys got Best Actor nominations.
And why none of them won?
I'm gonna watch Informer, and
too.
then afterwards, I will probably still say that Clark Gable deserves it because he's the best actor ever. He
He's
is
so
phenomenal.
fucking good.
Byam and Bly were so fucking good. I still don't even they still pale in comparison.
Yeah.
Like he's a modern day level god tier actor back in 1930.
I think everybody on this movie, except for the few like over the top moments with Bai, did a really good job in this movie.
That's more of the writing than the actor. I think the actor
That's
was
true.
great.
That's true. But all the actors did their job like,
phenomenal.
phenomenally.
Yeah, for all
Absolutely.
the shit we give the Bly character, I would say that the acting for Bly was really
Oh,
well done.
yes.
on point.
Yes.
Because he never overacted any of the over the top stuff.
No.
It was very in character with the writing.
And
Yes.
you know what?
He did it.
He easily could have overacted with those lines and that kind of villainous role. He could have
Nope.
gone over
Yeah,
the top.
absolutely.
But he
was
didn't.
He was snappy, not yelly.
Yeah.
Because do you dare make orders to me? You can yell that and overact that, but he went, you dare make orders to me? Like he snapped back.
Yes.
He
Yeah.
didn't
Yeah,
yell.
it's a character moment. I really
Yes.
like that shit over the the corny villain moments.
I think, you know what? I would be more on the side of he was over the top and they shouldn't have made the changes if the acting was bad.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Because the fact that he did it so well and so snappy, it's believable regardless of it being accurate.
I have one note
Yeah.
left. There was a sailor who was drunk on screen. They played Drunken Sailor.
It was Bly. It was the captain.
Yeah, and they played
And
Drunken Sailor in the
They
background.
played Drunken
To me, that I heard the song and I recognized and thought of the title, and then I watched and I was like, wait a fucking minute.
The drunk doctor is probably the only person I think that kind of went a little over the top.
Yeah. Now,
That's-
there's a very recurring theme in these movies that the drunk characters always kind of suck.
And
Yeah.
correct me if I'm wrong, but that scene was also before they left on that boat.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah.
So again, trim down that shit.
Yes.
I
Absolutely.
could have used more sea shanties. I'm not going to lie.
Oh, I would have been great, especially
Because-
because back to the historical accuracy. Bly, to keep spirits up, would have the men dance and sing.
Yep.
Come
that's
on,
great.
give me sea
Oh,
shanties.
that's so good.
Dude, honestly, because that is how they kept themselves sane on tough times. Like, that's why sea shanties exist. That's also why slave songs exist. But, like, we don't want like, this would have been 20 out of 10 if there was, like, 80 sea shanties. I love sea shanties, banger music,
Mhm.
but the fact that he was making them so broken down in spirit, that would have been like here's our reprieve, here's our fucking reprieve, like this is our one thing.
Mhm.
And
Especially because on the island, I think after the mutiny,
they were all singing and dancing.
Yeah.
Yep. it would have been a really, really nice reprieve.
It would have been a nice through line to have them like singing like solemnly.
They did sing that one time, and he told them to shut the fuck up.
See, and then like maybe see them again singing as an act of defiance.
Yes, that would have been awesome. Rule of threes there. We should have done the rule of threes there.
Yep.
We had the rule of two.
You establish an idea,
You established
and
an
then
idea.
you pay off the idea.
We talked a lot about like the boat scenes and how impressive they really were, but even like the real life locations they went to,
Yeah.
and just the sets in general. Are
I believe they
really
did
good.
actually film in Tahiti.
That's really impressive.
Yeah, for like, Hollywood in the 30s, you'd think everything's a soundstage, everything's rear projected.
But no, it looks it just looks really good.
Speaking on that, there was a couple scenes. I don't know if you guys caught it, but when the Paramore came, they had like the beach on Tahiti that looked good, and then like a backdrop shot and then a foredrop shot that
Mhm.
looked kind of weird.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, I got that. I just really think the only really standout bad shots were when they were on the little
small boat.
the dinghy, the
Oh,
small boat.
Small boat.
Yo, can we talk about when the Paramore was sinking and they had that sinking cam shot?
That's another thing. The film portrays it as if Bly got the ship run aground by his own incompetence.
Yeah.
No, I don't think it was an incompetence thing. I didn't perceive it that way. I just think it was an
I did,
accident.
because they're like,
Yeah.
oh, this is a very dangerous area to be in. And he's like, well, I'm going to find the bounty. And then they run aground.
Yeah, that's true, because they try to write his character as so hell-bent on getting revenge against him that, like, yeah, I totally get that.
I thought it was very, very Moby Dick,
Yeah.
very Captain Ahab.
Yeah.
Fair, that's a way to see it. Yeah.
That's a way to
Okay.
interpret it.
Yeah.
It just came off to me more as like the children's cartoon villain who
No,
thinks he's hot shit and
completely
keeps fucking up,
understandable.
and everyone just keeps going like, "Oh, you're the best, sir."
He definitely had a superiority complex.
Yeah.
I think of it as more of a Captain Ahab superiority complex as opposed to like, what's a bad villain superiority complex? Fucking who cares? Like Ant-Man, the Yellow Jacket. Like, oh, I'm the company. Like, fuck you.
What
Like,
an oddly specific example.
well,
of
that's
that.
the first thing that popped into my head.
Fair enough.
Like I'm the company. Fuck you, Hank Pym. Like that shit. Like I see this as like Captain Ahab, like hell bent. You took something from me. I'm going to take back.
I buy that the character would do that in that
Mhm.
moment.
Yep.
So I don't really like to give it negative points for that.
Yeah.
But I totally see what you're talking about.
I definitely see where you're coming from on that. I see how it could come across as that, and it might have. I would have to rewatch that scene in particular.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But from my perspective, it was just dangerous waters, maybe a little hell bent. Maybe you're not paying as close of attention because you're more hell bent and something bad happens.
Yeah.
But I can see where you're coming from on that, 100%.
What are our closing thoughts? Because I do want to get to out of 10s.
I just have a few more things I want to
Sure.
rattle off real
Sure.
quick. At one point, a soldier complains that he's been whipped 4 dozen times, yet has no scars on his back. In a different scene, there's a flogging carried out, and the dude performing the punishment whips like a bitch.
There was a couple scenes where they barely any wrist movement. Put your fucking shoulders into it, boys.
And line of the movie is, nobody calls me a thief except for those I steal from.
Despite this movie being pretty serious, there's a couple little funny nuggets.
There's
in here
some
that
really
make me
funny
Really
moments.
happy. There's really good dialogue in this movie.
So,
man.
yeah.
Line of the movie, they stole my semen. I'm not making that up. I wish I
That
were.
is a line. Yeah, so that's just a couple things that I couldn't really fit into our conversation. Oh, and the weird scene at the very beginning when they were performing like a ceremonial flogging, there's a drum roll, and I couldn't figure out if it was in the movie or not. Like, like I couldn't tell if it was diegetic
I
because there
think
was
I
no.
was the one who asked that question.
Judging by the drum roll as the ship was sinking,
Yes.
I think it's on the ship.
Oh yeah, there's also a drummer when the ship's sinking. Fucking hilarious shot. He's standing side on with the camera, just
It's
going
like the
ham
guitar
like a-
dude at the beginning of the war bus.
Yeah,
in
in Mad Max Fury Road. But he's just drumming away. Like he's standing side on, just going fucking ham like it's a drum solo and marching band. And then one guy has to like come and grab him and be like,
Yes.
we're
What are you-
leaving. The
what are you
ship's
doing?
sinking. But yeah, it was just weird because they don't show. If they show
Yeah.
a drummer, it's a blink and you miss it moment, and
Yep.
we all missed it. And they like have like a drum roll and then he gets hit, and we were all just watching. And we're like, is that supposed to be like Can they hear the drum
All
roll
right,
too?
boys, whip on beat.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
So
so-
good. Do you have any closing thoughts?
One thing I just want to say before my closing thoughts. You just talked about how the second ship sank.
Yeah.
I would never let Bly, like, I would not. First of all, if I was like the judges in that courtroom, I would not trust him after he just sank, after he lost
Lost
the
the
ship
ship and sank
then
another.
sank another. But he clearly just doesn't look trustworthy at
That's
that point.
a good point too. He fucked up 2 ships
Yes.
over the course of like what, 2 years?
Yeah, at that point you have to think it's him, and maybe that's why Byam got acquitted.
That's probably why. That's probably why.
Because remember, Byam got fucked over, and then Byam went off on him.
Yes.
And that's what got him acquitted.
He said, "Oh, you're not even saying anything. The fucking torturous conditions."
Yep.
You know what? I don't agree with what Christian did, but I understand why.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that sentiment right there, probably
That just
That's a good point.
That just helps
Yeah.
later on in the film.
yeah, no, that's a really good point.
Yep. Other than that, I think this movie, I was genuinely surprised because I personally, I don't really care for like old timey movies.
A lot of the classics aren't very good.
Yeah, a lot of classics do not age well. This movie, I think, has aged well.
It bangs.
This
yeah.
movie is
Yeah.
really, really good.
I understand why people still talk about Mutiny on
Yep,
the Bounty.
I do too.
Honestly, yeah. I want to watch The Informer, but as of my limited selection, I think it should have won. This movie, the one that I've seen.
Yeah.
No, I really enjoyed this. And out of 10, I think I'm going to give it an 8.
I'm also feeling an 8. It would have been a 9, maybe even a 10 if Bly wasn't just a little over the top in some scenes for me.
Joaquin.
Oh, okay. I'm also going with an 8. There's very few things that kind of just whittle it down for me, but I'm still like very genuinely surprised about how good this movie is.
I love it. Like this is my favorite one. I think
Really?
this is it's very, very close with All Quiet, but I'm a sucker for a good like ship movie.
Mm-hmm.
I really, really like the Moby Dick story and the story of the Essex and like pirate media and the Odyssey. Like these long journey movies and stories get me going.
I agree.
I love a good journey with character drama and depth, and this delivered. I absolutely enjoyed myself through and through, regardless of the historical inaccuracies, regardless of the weird cuts. Like, I can see past the weird cuts and stuff because it's the 30s. Like,
Yeah.
they didn't have good
I
technology.
think in most of the movies up until this point, we've
Every one
pointed
of
out
them.
at least one point
Yep.
where we're like, that was a
Except,
weird
you
cut.
know what? Except the last one. The last one didn't have any weird cuts.
It happened? Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
The fact that this movie only had technically 2, I'll say 2 because 2 of them happened in very quick succession. One's very noticeable and the other 2 are little blinks.
Mhm.
The fact that it only has that many is impressive for the time because editing film in this time was a bitch.
Yeah.
And the sound design in this movie is not as bad as some of the other ones.
I often bring up that scene from Chaplin, the Downey Jr. biopic about Charlie Chaplin,
Yep.
where
He's
they
like ripping it with his teeth.
Well, they do it. Yeah, they do a take of Charlie Chaplin's stunt or whatever, and then the editor is like, "I don't like it. I'm gonna do a different take or a different cut." And he picks out the roll. He pulls out the thing. He cuts it with his teeth. He goes to the other room. He exposes it a certain way. He cuts it, rolls it back into tapes it back onto the roll, rolls it back again. And it's like I do Command B in Final Cut Pro.
Command C, yeah.
I'm done. You know,
Yep.
Like, everything. It's like, oh my god.
The stuff that whittles it down only whittles it down a little bit for me. I think this is a 9. It's very, very close to All Quiet, but right now, because of the content of the movie, I think this is more fun. I had a lot of fun watching this. Like, especially with the heavy acting performance of my guy Clark Gable. This is the creme de la creme of the Best and Worst Pictures podcast so far. Like, we at the end of every time, we do our favorite so far and our least favorite so far. And I have a new favorite. Mutiny on the Bounty,
Wow.
Cavalcade.
Well, you know what? I also have a new favorite.
I can't wait for
ya.
Joaquin to star in like 3 of these, and like by the end we list them all out, and he's just like, yeah, Mutiny on the Bounty, Marty, and you know,
Crash.
Lord of the Rings.
No, just Crash. Just Crash.
Hey, fun fact: he has to watch all 11 hours of Lord of the Rings if he's doing that.
That's true. If he's gonna do it, he's gonna do
If
it.
you're on the Lord of the Rings Best Picture, you also have to be on the extended edition, which will be a separate thing.
It would be my first time watching Lord of the Rings, so
Oh, I'm sorry.
That'd be awesome.
Okay, that sounds
No,
more fun.
that's throwing a kid in the deep end without
No,
the
no.
ability to swim.
in 2 years when you guys eventually get to Lord of the Rings, let me know. Let me know.
Sure.
Let me know. I'll avoid all of Lord of the Rings until.
If we're all still alive by then, we'll let you know.
God, I hope we aren't. Yeah,
Ian, wait, what was your out of 10?
9. It's my favorite.
Nice.
Mutiny
Okay.
on the Bounty.
What about you,
Cavalcade's the
Jake?
worst.
Sure. I'd probably. What did I say last episode? All Quiet is still my favorite.
Yeah.
I think so.
I'll keep that and I'll go Cavalcade. But this is up there. This is awesome.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I agree with Jake. All Quiet still my favorite. Cavalcade still my least favorite. Mutiny falls below It Happened but above Wings.
I would agree with exactly that. I think that's exactly where it goes.
If we're gonna go top 3, I guess, definitely Mutiny, and then All Quiet, and then it happened. I think all three of them are very, very, very good movies.
Mm-hmm.
But this movie has a lot of content for me that I just really like. Like, I'm a sucker for a good boat movie, man. Like, I don't know what it is about a journey with boat and all this drama.
With boat.
Like, I don't even. Fun fact.
With boat.
I love in movie when they boat.
Fun fact. Mans can't swim. Love boat. Love the ocean. Love a good journey. Like, all of this.
It's that unexplored territory for
Yes,
you. That's why
it's
you love
so interesting.
Ian, do you think this is just your ancestor coming out?
Oh, I had an ancestor that was on the Essex.
Yeah,
That's
for
so
the
fun.
audience, Ian is a descendant of one of the people from the Essex, which is the story that inspired Moby Dick.
He is
Yes.
a
Oh,
descendant
that's cool.
of the person that Tom Holland's character in
Yep.
In the Heart of the Sea was playing.
Yep.
Yep.
So
it. Oh, that's crazy.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know what? 2 good ones in a row, by the way, boys.
I
Oh my God!
agree.
And they both had Clark Gable.
they did. Of
Guys,
course.
I have a question.
What's up?
We just watched the 8th one. What's the 9th one?
I'll tell you, the next one after Mutiny on the Bounty is going to be the 9th best picture ever, which is The Great Ziegfeld.
Oh.
3 hours.
Special thanks to Joaquin, star of the Potato Cast podcast. Thanks
Mhm.
for stopping by.
Joe Quinn, this is more your element. You're more of a long form podcast guy.
I guess I am.
We'll have you on again.
Yeah.
This was a lot of fun.
Absolutely.
Yeah, thanks.
Hopefully soon. I like having him on. He adds a new kind of opinion and thought process because you're a little younger than we are, aren't you?
I'm 21.
Okay, so you're about
The same.
Bud.
You're the youngest in the room.
You're the youngest person in the room.
Get out, baby.
Yeah.
Well, this has been the best and worst.
See you
Thanks
next
for joining
time
us.
for The Great
Jake,
Ziegfeld.
Ian, Mud, Joe Quinn, watch Potato Cast. They do stuff like this all the time.
Yeah.
Now it's more,
Variety.
It's way more variety.
but
Yeah.
they do long form stuff. It's so much fun to listen to, so much fun to watch. Check them out.
Thank you.
Hell yeah. See you guys next time.
We finna do this shit like this. It's like,
Hey, Dre! I thought it was you.
Did you see his mouth not move?
Man, this really feels like Total Recall 2012.
You even did your hair after that hair flip just so you can have your face on camera again.
They get paid by screen time seconds.
Did he park on the gargoyle?
He's Batmaning, but with a whole ass motorcycle.
One small solar panel charges the whole fucking building. She's good in stuff that isn't Thrones 2, which you can't say about the other actors.
Did you know she was Sarah Connor in the Sarah Connor Chronicles?
Never fucking mind.
So this is like maybe pre Game of Thrones Lady Headey.
Who shoved Lena Headey in a pencil sharpener?
lying ass nigga.